Welcome back. Today, we're diving into the world of Canadian half-dollar coins, a true hidden gem in the world of coin collecting. From early silver issues to rare low-mintage years and the iconic coat of arms design, these 50-cent pieces are full of history and potential value. Let's find out which Canadian half-dollars could be worth far more than face value. The 1970 to Canadian half-dollar coin is part of Canada's regular circulation coinage, minted by the Royal Canadian Mint. This coin belongs to the post-silver era of Canadian coinage, where the composition had shifted entirely to nickel due to the rising cost of silver. It reflects the typical characteristics and standards of Canadian half-dollars minted during the 1970s, offering historical value and consistent design rather than precious metal content. The obverse of the 1970 to half-dollar features the second effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machen. This portrait depicts the Queen wearing a tiara, facing right, and is surrounded by the Latin inscription Elizabeth to D.G. Regina, which stands for Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. On a circulated coin like this, the Queen's portrait may show smoothing or light wear, especially on finer features such as the facial profile and hair detail, but the inscription generally remains legible. The reverse side of the coin is adorned with the Canadian coat of arms, a highly detailed and symbolic design. The arms include the English lion and Scottish unicorn supporters, a shield divided into 5 sections representing England, Scotland, Ireland, and France, and a central 3 maple leaf motif representing Canada. Above the shield is a crowned lion holding a Union flag, and below is the motto Amori Usque ad Mare, meaning from sea to sea. In circulated condition, this side often exhibits softening of the intricate details, especially around the lion, crown, and smaller elements of the shield, but the core design usually remains visible enough to be appreciated. The 1970 to Canadian half-dollar was struck in nickel, giving it a silvery appearance without the intrinsic value of silver. It has a diameter of 29.72 millimeters, a mass of 11.66 grams, and a reeded edge. While not particularly rare, these coins are less commonly seen in everyday transactions today, as the 50-cent denomination is no longer frequently used in circulation. In circulated condition, the 1970 to half-dollar typically exhibits a variety of wear patterns. Common signs include surface scratches, loss of luster, and darkened areas from handling or oxidation over the decades. Some coins may have light spotting or rim nicks, but as long as the primary designs are visible and the coin retains its shape, it maintains collector interest, especially among those completing date sets or interested in Canadian historical coinage. Although the coin does not carry significant monetary value above face in this condition, it remains desirable to hobbyists, particularly those interested in coins from Queen Elizabeth II's reign. The 1972 issue falls into a period of Canadian history when the country was developing a more distinct national identity in its symbols and currency. Following the centennial celebrations of 1967, the Canadian half-dollar series from this era reflects the nation's cultural pride and commitment to tradition. While changes to the coat of arms design would eventually occur in later decades, the 1972 version maintains the heraldic style used for much of the 20th century. Many collectors appreciate the artistic intricacy of the coat of arms, especially on higher-grade examples. Even in circulated condition, the coin serves as a solid representation of the era's minting practices and Canada's symbolic heritage. In summary, a 1970 to Canadian half-dollar in circulated condition is a piece of everyday history. It reflects a time when coinage still played a strong visual role in reinforcing national identity, though it may not shine as brightly as it once did, and some details may be softened with time and use. It remains a respectable and worthwhile addition to any collection centered on Canadian numismatics.
Next up we have
the 1989p Canadian half-dollar coin, though sometimes misattributed with a P-mint mark, a notation more commonly associated with US coins, is part of Canada's long-running 50-cent series issued by the Royal Canadian Mint. Like other Canadian half-dollars from this era, It features iconic imagery and national symbolism and is made primarily for collectors, as this denomination was not commonly used in everyday transactions during the late 20th century. The obverse of the coin bears the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machen. This effigy, used on Canadian coinage from 1965 to 1989, depicts the Queen wearing a tiara and facing right. The inscription around the portrait reads Elizabeth to D.G. Regina, which is an abbreviation for the Latin phrase Dei Gratia Regina, translating to by the grace of God, Queen. The portrait, clean and refined, symbolizes Canada's continued relationship with the British Crown and has become an iconic feature of Canadian coinage. On the reverse side of the 1989 half-dollar is the Canadian coat of arms, a design known for its rich symbolism and intricate detail. The central shield is divided into 5 parts, representing England, Scotland, Ireland, France, and the 3 maple leaves symbolizing Canada. Supporting the shield are the English lion and the Scottish unicorn, both crowned. Above the shield is a crowned lion holding a maple leaf, and beneath it is the motto Amari Usque et de Mer, which translates to from sea to sea. This elegant and detailed design is framed by the denomination 50 cents and the country name Canada, along with the year 1989. The coin is made of nickel, which replaced silver in earlier decades due to rising metal costs. This nickel composition gives the coin a bright, silvery appearance and also makes it relatively durable. However, as with many circulated nickel coins, it can develop scratches and small abrasions over time. A 1989 Canadian half-dollar and some scratches condition suggests moderate circulation. The major design elements remain visible and distinct, but the coin may show light to moderate surface wear, small nicks, or dullness from handling and contact with other coins. The Canadian 50-cent piece had already become a rarity in everyday circulation by the 1980s. Though it remained legal tender and was still minted yearly, it was mostly collected, hoarded, or simply overlooked in favor of more commonly used denominations like the quarter or dollar coin. This limited use in commerce means that circulated examples like the 1989 coin are more likely to have come from rolls distributed by banks or coin sets broken up over the years. The coin has a diameter of 27.13 millimeters and a weight of 6.9 grams, with a reeded edge. These specifications remained consistent throughout most of the modern era of Canadian coinage. The striking details of the coat of arms on the reverse are often best appreciated in coins that have been well preserved, although even coins with moderate wear, like the 1989 half-dollar in scratched condition, can still display the core beauty and depth of the design. While not rare or highly valuable in circulated condition, the 1989 half-dollar holds appeal for collectors seeking to complete a run of Canadian 50-cent coins. For some, this coin represents a continuation of Canadian tradition, as the coat of arms design has remained largely unchanged for decades. For others, it serves as a nostalgic piece, a reminder of a time when these coins were still produced annually even if they were seldom used. Collectors interested in preserving a 1989 half-dollar in decent condition should store it in a protective coin flip, capsule, or folder. Coins should ideally be handled by their edges to avoid fingerprints and further surface damage. If the scratches are mild, the coin may still hold some value to a casual collector or as part of a broader historical or thematic collection. In conclusion, the 1989 Canadian half-dollar coin reflects Canada's enduring use of national symbols and royal portraiture. Its currency, though it has seen circulation and carries signs of use, its detailed design and mid-century charm make it a respectable addition to any numismatic collection. While its monetary value may be modest, the coin represents a historical moment in Canadian minting, bridging the gap between the practical utility of coinage and its cultural significance.
Next up we have
the 1980 Canadian half-dollar coin, though noted here with a D-mint mark more commonly associated with United States coinage, refers to what is likely a 1980 Canadian 50-cent piece produced by the Royal Canadian Mint. Canadian coins, including the half-dollar, do not generally use visible mint marks to designate origin, unlike their American counterparts. All standard Canadian coins from this period were minted in Ottawa unless otherwise stated for collector's issues. This particular coin is part of a series that is both historically significant and increasingly uncommon in daily circulation. The obverse of the coin features a regal portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. This version of the Queen's effigy was designed by Arnold Madchen and was used on Canadian coinage from 1965 until 1989. It portrays her wearing a tiara, facing right, and is surrounded by the Latin inscription Elizabeth to D.G. Regina, which means Elizabeth II by the grace of God. Queen. The portrait is dignified and formal, representing Canada's status as a constitutional monarchy and member of the Commonwealth. On the reverse of the coin is the Canadian coat of arms, a complex and elegant design that symbolizes Canada's heritage and unity. The arms incorporate emblems representing the founding nations: England 3 lions, Scotland lion rampant, Ireland harp, and France fleur-de-lis, along with 3 maple leaves to represent Canada. The shield is flanked by the crowned lion of England and the unicorn of Scotland, with a crowned lion holding a maple leaf above. Beneath is the national motto, Amori Usque ad Mare, meaning from sea to sea. Around the edges are inscribed the words Canada, the denomination 50 cents, and the year 1980. The coin is composed of nickel and weighs 6.9 grams, with a diameter of 27.13 millimeters and a reeded edge. The use of nickel instead of silver had become standard by this time due to the economic shifts and rising metal costs. In previous decades, this metal makes the coin relatively durable, though in circulated condition, it often shows signs of wear, including minor abrasions, a duller surface, and sometimes loss of luster. Circulated condition for a coin like this typically means it has been used in everyday transactions, passed through multiple hands, and exposed to elements that slightly degrade its detail. The 1980 Canadian half-dollar was not produced in vast quantities compared to other denominations like the nickel or quarter, making it less familiar to many Canadians even at the time of issue. In fact, the 50-cent piece had fallen out of favor in general commerce, and although it was minted annually, it saw minimal public use. Many Canadians, even today, may have never encountered a 50-cent coin in circulation. As a result, most existing examples were either collected intentionally or stored by banks and coin enthusiasts. Even in circulated condition, the 1980 half-dollar retains its appeal for numismatists interested in completing full-year sets or in collecting Canadian denominations that have become less common. While it may not hold significant monetary value unless in uncirculated or proof condition, it serves as a piece of Canada's coinage history, representing the traditional style and stately symbolism used throughout the latter half of the 20th century. Handling a coin like this, especially one in circulated condition, reminds collectors of the practical life coins once had passing through shops, cash drawers, and wallets before becoming sidelined by more popular denominations and eventually withdrawn from frequent use. The coin's weight, metal feel, and classic design offer a tactile and visual connection to a quieter, slower period in Canada's economic and numismatic history. Proper storage is key to preserving even a circulated coin. Although it already bears the marks of circulation, further exposure to air, moisture, and skin oils can cause deterioration. A 2x2 coin holder, archival quality coin flip, or a plastic capsule are suitable ways to store and protect it for the long-term. In summary, the 1980 Canadian half-dollar coin in circulated condition might not be a showpiece in a high-end collection, but it is still a charming and historically rooted piece. Its enduring design and symbolic richness give it character, and for anyone with an appreciation for Canadian history and heritage, it serves as a humble yet important artifact. Its circulated condition does not detract from its story, rather, it enhances it by adding a sense of real-world history and lived use to its already stately design.
Next up we have
the 1973 Canadian half-dollar coin without a mint mark. In circulated condition, is a commemorative issue that holds both historical and numismatic interest. Unlike most regular coinage, this particular year's 50-cent piece marks the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police (RCMP), making it one of the more recognizable and collectible half-dollars produced by the Royal Canadian Mint. The obverse features the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machen. This portrait was used on Canadian coins from 1965 to 1989 and shows the Queen wearing a tiara, facing right. Around the edge is the Latin inscription Elizabeth to D.G. Regina, which translates to Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen. In circulated condition, this side may show wear, particularly on the facial features and hair detail, but the overall likeness remains identifiable. The reverse design of the 1973 half-dollar is what sets it apart. Instead of the usual Canadian coat of arms, this coin displays an image of a mounted RCMP officer in full ceremonial dress. The rider is shown upright on a horse, facing left, with the lance held vertically in his right hand. The horse is well detailed, and beneath it are the dates 1873 to 1973, commemorating a century of the RCMP's service to Canada. Around the edge are the words Canada and 50 cents. The initials of the designer, Paul Cederberg, appear near the base of the design. The coin is composed of nickel. As silver had been removed from circulating half-dollars after 1967, it weighs 6.9 grams and has a diameter of 27.13 millimeters. Its edge is reeded, and like most Canadian coins of the period, it was minted in Ottawa, hence the absence of a visible mint mark, which is typical for Canadian circulation coins. Being in circulated condition means the coin has passed through everyday transactions and shows visible signs of handling. This includes surface scratches, smoothing of the finer details, and possibly some discoloration or dulling of the metal. For the 1973 RCMP half-dollar, high points like the horse's mane, the officer's face and uniform, and the Queen's portrait are usually the first areas to show wear. Even so, the coin remains fully legible and its design recognizable, making it a worthy addition to a circulated collection or as a historical reference piece. The 1973 RCMP half-dollar was issued in both regular and special collector formats. The circulation version, such as this one, was minted in large quantities. While not particularly rare, it has become increasingly less common in everyday circulation due to its commemorative nature and because the 50-cent denomination has not been widely used in Canada since the 1970s. As many of these coins were set aside by collectors or the general public upon release due to their unique design. In terms of value, circulated examples of the 1973 half-dollar typically have modest monetary worth, generally ranging from face value up to a few dollars depending on condition. However, their real value lies in their cultural and historical importance. They mark a key anniversary for one of Canada's most iconic national institutions, the RCMP, and reflect the style and sentiment of early 1970s commemorative coinage. Collectors often appreciate this coin for its distinctive imagery and the way it breaks from the standard series. The mounted police design is among the most recognized motifs in Canadian coin history, and it stands as a reminder of the country's law enforcement legacy and the symbolism the RCMP holds in Canadian identity for long-term preservation. Even a circulated coin like this one benefits from proper storage. Keeping it in a 2x2 cardboard coin holder or a protective plastic capsule will prevent further wear and environmental damage. It's important to avoid cleaning circulated coins, as this can lower their value and obscure their original details. In conclusion, the 1973 Canadian half-dollar commemorating the centennial of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police is more than just a coin, it's a piece of national heritage. While it may be worn from circulation, it still tells a story of service, tradition, and Canadian pride. Its distinctive design and unique place in Canada's numismatic history make it a valuable item for collectors who appreciate coins not just for their metal, but for the meaning they carry.
Next up we have
The 1971 Canadian half-dollar coin, part of the country's long-running series of 50-cent pieces, is a coin that continues the traditional design featuring Canada's national coat of arms, while not as commonly encountered in everyday circulation. Today, this coin reflects a time when larger denomination coins were more actively used in transactions. The 1971 issue carries forward the design and dimensions introduced in previous decades, serving as a link between older, silver-based coinage and more modern, base metal currency. On the obverse, the coin bears the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II. By 1971, the portrait had been updated from the earlier youthful version to a more mature depiction. This updated design, by Arnold Machen, shows the Queen wearing a tiara and facing right. The inscription surrounding the portrait reads Elizabeth to D.G. Regina, which is Latin for Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, in circulated condition. The portrait may display signs of wear, especially on the high points such as the Queen's cheek, hair, and crown. Light scratches or smooth areas may be visible depending on how much the coin has been handled. The reverse side of the coin features the Canadian coat of arms, an intricate and symbolic design that highlights the historical and cultural roots of Canada. It includes the quartered shield with symbols of England, 3 lions, Scotland lion rampant, Ireland harp, and France fleur-de-lis, topped by the royal crown. The shield is flanked by a lion holding a Union Jack flag and a unicorn holding the flag of Royal France. Beneath the coat of arms is a scroll with the national motto, Amori Usque ad Mare, which means from sea to sea. The legend Canada 1971 and 50 cents encircle the bottom. Due to circulation, the fine details of the coat of arms, especially in the supporters, shield, and the crown, may show signs of flattening. The inscriptions generally remain legible, although light wear and minor discoloration are expected in a circulated coin of this age. Surface marks such as bag marks, edge nicks, or general dulling of the original mint luster are also common in this condition. The 1971 half-dollar is composed of 100% nickel, weighing approximately 8.1 grams and measuring 27.13 millimeters in diameter. Unlike earlier issues made of silver prior to 1968, this coin has a more magnetic composition with a slightly different luster and feel. The switch from silver to nickel occurred as part of broader economic changes affecting coin production, particularly in response to rising silver prices and the need for more durable and cost-effective metals. Nickel coins, like the 1971 half-dollar, tend to age differently than silver ones. Over time, the surface can develop a matte finish or acquire light spotting due to oxidation. Nickel is also harder than silver, so while it resists deep scratches more effectively, it often accumulates more minor abrasions from handling. The reeded edge typically remains well-defined unless the coin has been heavily worn or improperly stored. Although not a rare coin by mintage, the 1971 Canadian half-dollar is less commonly seen in daily circulation today. Many of these coins were pulled from change and saved in drawers or collections due to their unusual size and historical appeal. Their larger size and heraldic reverse make them visually striking, particularly for collectors interested in Canadian coinage or national symbolism. While half-dollar coins continue to be issued by the Royal Canadian Mint, they are not regularly used in everyday transactions, and production numbers are significantly lower than for smaller denominations. This has increased the numismatic interest in earlier dates like 1971, especially those in higher grades or with unique toning. In summary, the 1971 Canadian half-dollar coin in circulated condition offers a solid representation of Canada's mid-20th century numismatic design. It bridges the transition from silver to base metal coinage and maintains traditional imagery through the continued use of the coat of arms. While its value in circulated condition remains modest, the coin holds historical significance and aesthetic appeal, particularly for those who appreciate Canadian history and classic coin designs.
Next up we have
the 1977 Canadian half-dollar coin without a mint mark in good condition is a representative example of mid to late 20th century Canadian coinage. This coin, struck at the Royal Canadian Mint, features the designs that became standard on the -1 cent piece during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. While the 50-cent denomination was still officially produced, its circulation was declining during this era, making the coin more of a collectible item than a commonly used piece of currency in daily transactions. On one side of the coin is the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, facing right. This version of her effigy was created by Arnold Machin and used on Canadian coins from the mid-1960s to the late 1980s. It shows the Queen with a serene expression, wearing a tiara. The words around the edge of the coin read Elizabeth II, D.G. Regina, which is a Latin abbreviation meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. In a coin that has been kept in good condition, the facial features of the Queen remain visible, with only minor signs of wear from handling or circulation. The tiara, hair details, and the lettering are generally sharp and readable, though slight softening of high points is expected due to age. The reverse side of the coin bears the coat of arms of Canada, which has long been a traditional design on the Canadian 50-cent piece. The coat of arms is a detailed heraldic symbol that includes a central shield bearing symbols representing the founding nations of Canada, England, Scotland, Ireland, and France. Above the shield sits a royal crown, while on either side stand the lion and unicorn drawn from British heraldry. Below the shield is a scroll bearing the national motto Amori Usque ad Mare, which translates to from sea to sea. The level of detail on the reverse is typically well preserved on coins in good condition, though slight wear on the higher parts of the relief is expected. This 50-cent coin from 1977 is made of nickel, which had replaced silver in the composition of Canadian coins after the late 1960s. It has a diameter of 27.13 millimeters and weighs 6.9 grams. The edge of the coin is reeded, providing both tactile and visual texture. The coin does not bear a mint mark, as it was minted in Ottawa, the standard production site for circulating Canadian coins at the time. Mint marks are generally used only for coins struck at branch facilities or special issues, so their absence is normal on coins like this one. In the context of collecting and valuation, the 1977 Canadian half-dollar is not rare or particularly valuable in the market for circulated coins. It holds a small premium over face value depending on condition, but is mostly valued by hobbyists and those with an interest in national symbolism and numismatics. However, its significance lies in its role as part of Canada's regular coinage tradition, its emblematic imagery, and the gradual disappearance of the 50-cent coin from everyday usage in later decades. This makes coins like the 1977 edition more commonly found in collections rather than change purses. Coins in good condition like this one often show moderate luster, minimal surface corrosion, and clear visibility of key design elements. A good condition classification generally indicates that the coin has seen some circulation but has been well preserved, showing no major damage, deep scratches, or discoloration beyond light surface wear. The fields of the coin, which refer to the flat areas that are not raised designs, might have minor contact marks but retain a reasonable amount of original smoothness and clarity. Preserving the coin's current state requires proper storage and handling. It is best to keep the coin in a protective sleeve or album page made of non-PVC materials to avoid chemical reactions that can discolor or corrode the surface over time. Coins should be handled by the edges, not the faces, to avoid fingerprint, oils, and wear. Cleaning should be avoided altogether, as even gentle cleaning can remove patina and lower the coin's appeal to collectors. The production of the 50-cent coin in 1977 continued a long-standing tradition in Canadian coinage. However, its usage in everyday commerce had begun to wane significantly by the late 20th century. Most Canadians rarely encountered 50-cent coins in their regular transactions, as they were not widely distributed through banks or businesses. Nevertheless, the Royal Canadian Mint continued to strike them for collectors and ceremonial purposes, and many Canadians saved them for their symbolic value or to complete a coin set. This coin provides a tangible connection to a time when Canada's coinage still regularly celebrated national heritage and symbols in standard currency. The coat of arms is not only a design element, but a reflection of the country's identity and values. For many collectors, owning a 1977 half dollar is not about financial gain, but about preserving a piece of national history in a durable and visually rich form. Overall, the 1977 Canadian half dollar, without a mint mark in good condition, serves as a classic example of Canadian numismatic tradition. It reflects both the enduring legacy of Queen Elizabeth II's long reign and the Canadian government's commitment to producing coins that symbolize the unity and diversity of the country. While not rare or highly valuable in monetary terms, its importance to those interested in coins, history, or Canadian culture remains significant.